If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We all know that owning a small business means you wear many hats, but sometimes you really need an extra pair of hands. Upwork is how good companies find great and trusted freelance talent. With more than 2 decades of experience, with the simple and ambitious goal of pioneering a better way of working, companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in staffing key projects and initiatives. They access a global marketplace filled with top talent in IT, web dev, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, and get help drafting a job post or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them and take your business to the next level. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com.
Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators. Today we have a special guest.
Ronnie Warner.
Woohoo! Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I mean, for those who don't know, Ronnie Warner. Oh, gosh, where do I begin? To me, you are someone. I've known you for a long time, and we're I consider him like my uncle, like family. Like I love this man and his family so much. And I respect you so much, and you're just someone that mean a lot to me, and I'm just so appreciative to you to have time for me today. So thank you for this conversation.
I always have time for Bean. That's my affectionate nickname is call you Bean. That's my Bean.
So let's start from the beginning a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, kind of growing up, and kind of how did you find your way into the things that you're doing now?
Well, I'm from a small town in North Carolina called Hillsborough, North Carolina. When I was growing up, we had 2,500 people. So, it was just small, right? And it was, pretty segregated, because I grew up in the 70s and the 70s and 80s. But, I'm saying my childhood started like kindergarten and stuff like that in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And it was cool. It wasn't like, anything that was crazy happening. But I'm just saying that was the environment.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate in that my grandmother and grandfather were successful. They my grandmother was a teacher for 45 years.
Wow.
My grandfather was a contractor and developer for his entire life, and we owned a lot of real estate and stuff, and it was, like I said, segregated. We had he owned the Negro only hotel, and,
wow,
that type of stuff in the town. And because again, like I said, it was segregated, and
right.
That's so it started. Of course, as time progressed, things changed. But I'm just saying that was the sort of genesis of that. And at any rate, I was because of that, I always had a bend towards entrepreneurship, because that's the household I grew up in had that energy. And I sort of tell this story when it comes up. When I was about 6 or 7, my father was a good artist, and he passed that gift or talent, whatever, on to me, so I could draw, and I knew I could draw at a young age. And I'm not Picasso. I'm just saying I could draw. I knew how to
cool.
Good draw. And so I remember when I was about, like I say, 6 or 7, I created a cartoon called Cool Cat. I mean, it was a cat that was cool. And it's the 70s cool. He had the bell bottoms, the the hat, he looked like, the guy, the jive dude, and he was a detective. And
Nice.
so I drew the strip out, and I had, a little whatever. I don't remember what it was about, but I know he was a detective and he was doing whatever he was doing. And I took that and I took it to my grandmother and I said, look, I want to mail this into the newspaper because
Oh,
I want to get
nice.
my own comic strip, in the newspaper. And we mailed it in and sent it off. And of course, they didn't respond. They probably should have. A little kid, they probably should have just said, "Hey, nice job," But my point is, the reason I tell that story is because I've been doing that ever since. Creating and trying to sell my stories and get them out into to the universe and from an entrepreneurial perspective. And so that energy is what stayed with me my entire life. I've always went down that road, and art became my business. So that's sort of how that began. And then when I was about 13, I moved to a place called Northern Virginia, up near DC. My mom got remarried, and we went up there, and then that's why I kind of graduated high school.
And then you're like, all right, we're going to stay on this path but then you got into, comedy, stand-up.
Comedy, yeah,
I
okay,
mean,
yeah,
you were doing a lot of stuff.
yeah, okay, yeah. So I'll get into that. I guess I was just giving you my early, but okay, yeah. So
I love that.
went off to college, and that didn't go so well. And
Same for me.
I joined, hey man, I was not ready for that experience. Or maybe they weren't ready for me. I don't know, because
I like that.
we departed ways, and because they wanted to depart ways. And like, thank you, sir, but no, thank you. Yeah, I think you're destined for something else. So I joined the Marine Corps,
Nice.
and I did that for a few years. And so when I was about 22, I ended up in North Carolina, and at North Carolina Central University, and HBCU in Durham, North Carolina. And I was always a guy that was always getting jobs, man. I always looking for jobs and stuff like that. Because you're young, you're just trying to make some money, and then also enjoy the different experiences of just having different kinds of jobs or whatever. So kind of if I could rewind this just a little bit, when I was coming out of high school, I'd applied to school out in California because I wanted to be in LA because I knew
LA's the place to be.
and I wanted to be out here. And I was always like, I was nominated in class clown in school and stuff like that. So I was always like into being funny and a bit of a performer. So I just always kind of like, man, if I get to LA, I can get into some stuff. I mean, I'm a dude that would be getting into stuff, right? And so I applied to school out here, and that didn't work out. So like I said, I went on my journey. So now cut to, I'm 22. I'm at North Carolina Central, and I'm looking for a job. And I saw a job at the comedy club, and I was like, a comedy club in Durham. You know what I mean? Like,
sounds fun.
It's like it's not a place where you're gonna see that. At that time, right? And so I went down there, and they were hiring barbacks, food runners, and cocktail waitresses. And so the manager was like, because obviously I wasn't going to be a cocktail waitress. So he said, well, what do you want to do? The bar back or the food runner or whatever. And I was like, well, I said, what's going to get me inside the club? Because I just want to be in the club.
Yeah.
And I think I was, maybe, something about me, I guess he liked enough that he said, well, why don't you be a waiter? I said, oh, okay, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, because they didn't say waiters, they said cocktail waitresses,
Why?
And
Right.
so he, I guess he made an exception. So I became the only guy waiter with, cocktail waitresses. And I stayed there, and the format, I'm trying to make it short. So the format for the show was a opening act, a middle act, and a closing act. And that's how it went, right? And so what ended up happening is they went down to just a middle act and a closing act. And so the opening act, was no more. So the
Oh, okay.
manager would go on stage and just introduce the comics,
Got it.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I want to, because I wanted to get on, I wanted to get on stage. I wanted to be a part of this thing. I
Yeah.
wanted to, because I was, working on my little script, whatever that I
Hmm.
had in my head. And so eventually, he ended up leaving the manager.
Ah.
And I had been there at this point the longest, like no, because there's a wait and take people quitting all the time and starting. So I was there because I was in it. So he quit to go open up his own restaurant. And so I went to the management, because this club was inside a whole building where they had the comedy club, they had a nightclub, they had a bar
Oh,
downstairs, they had a German restaurant, we had a micro brewery. It was like a
wow.
whole thing, right? So anyway, I went to say, well, I want to get the manager job. And they're like, So they hired some other guy. I had to train that dude, right? So I
Ah,
trained the guy on the job. He had to have me there every day because he didn't, he didn't know what he's doing. He comes to work one day. He's a young dude, drunk, and he and I was like, oh man. So I kind of get, I mean, dude had on a suit and flip flops. He graduated from NC State, and he'd gone to their homecoming on that
okay.
Saturday, during the day, and he got caught up, drinking, hanging out with his buddies, and he came to work drunk. And so I had got my roommate a job as the bouncer, and so he wore a suit to work. And so I said, look, and I got all the wait staff together. I said, look, my boy, we're gonna call him the manager. There's an issue because he got a suit on. You're the manager. So
Right.
everybody, that's the manager. I said, but then when the problem comes, you come to me and then I'll tell you how to handle the problem. Right. Because
Right.
he wasn't equipped because he just was the bouncer dude. I'd been working there for like a couple years by this time.
Hmm.
So that went on without a hitch. We made it through the night. But I think the big people found out that the dude was drunk. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think
Yeah.
because a couple weeks later he got fired. Right.
Oh,
So I went again to the big bosses or whatever. Again, I said, hey man, can I take the job?
right.
No.
Why
They
though?
had something. Come on, you think really?
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
whole situation was. So I'm speculating. I mean, I don't know any other reason.
I
So they
mean,
had another guy. I had to train him.
wow.
All right. So now, come on, I'm training the people that I
Right.
can job.
Right.
Okay. So I trained that dude. And he lasted for a little while, and then he quit.
Wow.
Then I went back to the people, and they said, well, we'll let you be supervisor. So this so supervisor. Okay, got it. So, but the point, it didn't matter. I don't care
Right.
about
Right.
now. I get to get on stage
Yeah.
to
That's it.
introduce the comics. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so then they ended up that management company, whomever it was, left, and some new management company came in, and these guys had severed ties with the other comedy club, blah blah blah, and they were doing their own thing. So the guy came to me and said, "We need someone to book the comedy club. Do you know
Ah.
anybody?" I went home, I thought about it, and I said, "Man, maybe I can do it." So I said, I came back and said, I'd like to try to do it. He said, okay. He let me have that opportunity. One of my good friends from high school named Ted Carpenter, shout out to Ted Carpenter. He was he later on did Def Jam and all that stuff. So he's a comic. He's a
Nice.
booking
Nice.
artist. And so through him, I started being able to book the club. And so from that point, I started growing my own little business.
I
Then I
love that.
like a year later, I brought Martin Lawrence into town and did
Nice.
a concert with him. And this was before he blew up. He was on his way up.
On his way.
And so everything just started percolating. I started getting my feet wet. As even as a stand-up, I was starting to do a little, I was getting even though I was more of a business person, I was
Yeah.
booking and doing stuff like that. I was also hosting. So I was
Nice.
getting my comic leg straight. So finally, the club ends up closing down, some stuff happened or whatever. So I kind of was, but at that time, I had gotten enough time as a comic that I started really pushing that.
That's
agenda.
awesome.
And and from there, I just started growing. So I got good, started traveling. Next thing I know, 10, 12 years later, I'm out here in LA,
That's
going into my next chapter or whatever.
that is so cool to me because you have like such a resilience. I feel like it's like it's either you have it or don't have it. I feel like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of what it is. And
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
you know, and I mean, because most people would be like, getting that no from their boss is like defeating. They're like, well, I guess that's it.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. But because I was zeroed in,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, we're on a journey, right?
right.
And there's no specific destination, but there's a journey, there's a path you're on. And if you're focused on that path, all the other stuff it's always going to be something. There's always going to be bumps in the road. There's always going to be a couple of tree limbs that fall down in front of you, and distractions and things of that nature. So I never took that, and I come from an era of those type of things are somewhat prevalent. That we're in the South. That's just what it is. So you don't take it super personal. It didn't hurt my feelings.
That's
You
good.
know what I mean? Not even at all.
That's
it just was what it was, and I just kept coming back.
Yeah.
And that's how I did my stand-up career. I was that dude that I remember the big one, like when the biggest room, like it was like the probably the number one, without question, was the number one Black comedy club in the country.
Wow.
And it was an A room. It was called All Jokes Aside in Chicago.
Nice.
And it was an A room, and they flew you in. It was a super top of the line comedy club. And so every Black comic was that was
That's
the
cool.
top, that was the room you wanted to get in, right?
Yeah.
So I used to call these people like every day, right?
Wow.
I would never get on the phone with the guy, and then every now and then I get on the phone with the guy, and he kind of like, man, well, I gotta go, but just yeah, man, I'm trying to get in, and so finally I never get this, and I'm just the point of this story is because how hard I went in the paint, man. So
No, really.
I called the guy, and in this particular day, I figured something out. I got him off the subject of me trying to get in the room. And we started talking about comics. And then he found out I used to have a comedy club, because when I had the comedy club, I was booking Black comics too, because I sort of changed the format when I took over the club. And we were the only that room and my room were only two clubs in the whole country that were booking full, for the whole weekend, Thursday through Sunday,
Wow.
Black comedy. And because it most Black comedy was just one night here and there, you go, they kind of chitlin circuit, you
Got it.
the nightclub, they had a comedy night, you know what I'm saying, or something like that, right? And so anyway, we got on that subject, and so he's like, oh, and then he started asking me all these comics, and I knew a lot of them because I did come to my room in the past.
Right.
So we kind of like got a little cool thing going in the conversation, and it opened him up, and he said, yeah, so what are you doing on April? I never get the date, April 15th. I said, man, I'm there, right? So, and it's like in January, right? And so I was like, cool, I finally got booked at the room, right? So I'm going, good. So Meosha, this is so crazy. The next day, I picked the phone up, I called them back. Yeah, it's Raymond. His name's Raymond. Is Raymond in? Yeah, hold on. And I'm on hold waiting for him to get on the phone. And I was like, oh man, it occurred to me, oh, I already booked the room. Like my habit was so much
I see.
calling him every day to try to get in the room. The next day, I just picked the phone up by habit to call him to try to get in the room. And I was like, oh, damn, I already got in the room. So I just hung up the phone because I wouldn't embarrass myself. Because if he said hello, nothing.
No, that's amazing though.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? When you're so hyper focused, but you do also have to learn how to contain that.
Yes.
Right? That was a lesson for me too. And even coming into the Hollywood game, and filmmaking, I had to learn how to curb that a little bit, because that can also come off as desperate energy.
Oh my gosh, right?
You know what I mean?
Like, oh, yeah.
Here they come again, and so you gotta you know, and you don't want to be that guy or that girl. You know, you don't want somebody to see your name pop up and go, oh, ignore. So I had to
Right.
learn how to harness that energy
Yeah.
and how to use it or whatever. But yeah, I would definitely go hard in the paint.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think that's why I love like talking to you, because I feel like I can so relate. And maybe, I'm not a man, but being a female, I have my own little struggles that I have to
Yeah, of
go
course.
through. But I just, I mean, it's still just, that's why I love talking to you and getting like just your perspective of like, oh, Ronnie did it. He can like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's what it's about,
He
and that's
did
what
it.
it is. What I've seen. It's
Thank
like
you.
there's no quit, go hard in the paint, but then also it's even like when you move, right? It was like a shift. Like you're
Yeah.
like, I'm not. See, this isn't me stopping.
Right.
This isn't me giving up. This is me. Okay, let me slow this down, refocus my energy, and look
Right.
what's happening now, right? Look at all the
Yeah.
things that are coming your way. Look at how
Yeah.
you look great. I mean,
Thank you.
no, you know what I mean? You didn't stop. The path didn't change. You
Right.
just reorganized to a certain extent, and you shifted your focus and your energy. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah.
so, and I maybe not even your focus, maybe stayed the same, but your energy changed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so
Yeah.
I think that's important to be able to
Ab-
do that. It's like
oh,
self-analysis.
oh my gosh, because I think anybody, I think this business specifically, right? You have to have that kind of energy to
Oh
order to
yeah,
perform and to execute at a
yes.
certain level. If you're not energetically aligned, it's just not
No,
gonna work out,
no, you're 100% right. You're 100% right, because you'll find yourself missing the mark
Yeah.
constantly. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
So I like to you know, ask this question, and there's no wrong answer,
Yeah.
but the three levels of of power, money, power, or respect, right? And if you could have any of those, which one would you choose and why? You only could choose one.
For one, there have to be respect.
I like that. I
Yeah,
like that.
because with respect, I'm gonna get the power and the money.
Right. Right. Right.
so, so I mean, to me, that's the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And then and with respect, at the end of the day, that means I lived a righteous life.
Yes.
And I did, I lived in the path that God put me on. And so if I have respect, then it's actually everything that matters. And
Right.
if that aligns with power and wealth in terms of, because it just so happens that what I do generates that,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it'll be what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I like
My
that.
my, my grandfather, if I may, that was what I saw in him.
Mm,
He had a level of wealth. I'm saying in our small town, and he had a level of power. He was
yeah.
first black person on the city council. Like
Wow.
he was a guy that was making waves, right?
Yeah.
But above all of that, he had respect, man. People respected him, and it's not because he was a pious man.
Mm,
He walked in pure righteousness.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
this dude, he ain't cuss. He was just that guy, like just
Wow.
lived a righteous life. And from that, people respected, because that's what the way you get respect is the way you walk.
Oh
It's not,
my
it's not,
gosh.
it's not the lip job, it's the way you walk.
I
And
love that.
that's what it is. You want to be a person that younger people look at and go, okay, that's a path towards, because that's what I did along my way. I saw different people.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I like the way you move. I like the way
Yeah.
he moves. I like the way he moves. And then I want to emulate that in who I am. You know what I mean? So anyway, I didn't mean to go into the long
No, I
drawn
love that.
reason, but that's why I would pick that over like any day,
That's
anything.
that's a great answer. Great answer. Um, how do you like? And obviously, I know that you're like, do you think that you found your purpose in life, like this journey that we call life?
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah, 100%. It's not always easy to we're flesh, right? And so then we're born in the flesh. So that means that everything that comes with it, you know, it comes with it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And as long as you, again, going back to my grandfather, he said something to me when I was a kid, and he just always kept saying it. And it took me a lot of years to really truly understand, long after he was even gone, to truly understand it. But he used to say, the best gift a person can give themselves is to know themselves.
Mm.
And I, as I got older and older, I started really understanding not only what that meant, but I had understood the importance of finding it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, it's, through prayer, meditation, affirmations, things of that nature. It's, been my journey towards that sort of inner work, right?
Love that.
And when, as I peel back the layers, it was just confirming of what I always knew was there is actually there. So
Yeah.
all the other stuff that I deal with, sometimes being pressured or feeling anxiety or whatever, I know they're just symptoms of the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's other things out there in the universe that are working in my favor.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're always kind of leading me back where I need to be if I get a little confused or something. And then I just gotta trust that they come. That's the hard part. You know that, right? It's like, yo, man, what we doing out here? And we like, God, what we doing out here now? You just got me out here on this
Well,
float.
where are you?
Yeah, I'm out here in the middle of this ocean, man. I ain't seeing no land, brother. I'm not a fish, man. Right?
Yeah.
So you got, and it's just life though,
Yeah.
and that's part of it. But as I've gotten older and
Yeah.
experience, those moments of fear, if you will, are
Yeah.
less and less. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're not as powerful as it like they are. Like I think because it's just like what it is. Like you said, it's flesh. Those things are so it's like how to like overcome that step versus it's you staying in it and
Yes.
letting it kind of like what do you
Yep.
call it? Take over.
Take over, like embody you, I guess. Maybe
Yeah.
become like your innards, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? It's just some. It's like, okay, no, that's just flesh. I know. I know that what that is, man. And we're all born.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What that that's so good. For those who are listening, I'm so sorry I didn't get to your resume really quick. Like
Oh,
go down the list. I mean, the things that you've done, the people you work with, because we only have what, like 7 minutes and 37 seconds left.
I guess you mean like film wise, right? I mean,
Yeah, just how awesome you are. Because you are. You are
all
that.
that.
You are him. You're him.
All that. But I'm trying to make it quick. When I first got out here, obviously I was a comic, and I ended up kind of stopped doing stand up. That's a whole nother story. But I was also writing and that type of stuff. So I ended up landing a job at B.E.T writing on a sketch comedy show with this guy, Jesse Collins, hired me. Awesome Jesse Collins. He produces the Grammys. He produces the B.E.T Award show. He's a dope guy. But he gave me my first shot at writing, and I wrote on this sketch comedy show, and then I wrote on the first 2 B.E.T award shows, and then from that, because I was also an actor, and I booked this gig out in this Fox series, and anyway, when another actor on the show, we bonded, and he was writing, I was writing, and we decided to pen a script together, and it was called Easier, Softer Way, and it was like a pothead movie or whatever. And I ended up, down the road, I ended up partnering with Mekhi Phifer because he was a very good friend of mine. And he loved the script, and we like, let's go forward. And so he was going to direct it, be in it. I was going to be, the lead, one of the leads. And so ultimately we got it, we shopped it at Sony. Sony picked it up, and we got a chance to produce it. Brought on Will Packer, the famous Will Packer. He came on as one of the producers, as one of his early pictures as well. And we did it together. It was awesome. It ended up going straight to DVD, but it was a great movie. And unfortunately, our brother Danny Masterson, that we probably heard about, he was actually in it.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate situation that's going on with him right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless everyone involved. I don't know a lot about the case, but anyway, that's that.
Yeah.
And then from there, Makai and I started our little company. We got a deal at Warner Brothers. We end up doing another movie called This Christmas that went on to be sort of like a African American
It's like
classic.
a classic.
Yeah,
It's like at
very
everybody's
fortunate.
home.
Yeah, everyone, and I was very fortunate with that. You
That's
know what I mean?
awesome.
And then from that, we had some other deals. And we had some amazing deals on the table. Some of those things didn't go through. I ended up kind of going out on my own and started doing some independent things. I worked with a buddy of mine, Lawrence Adisa. We did,
Lawrence.
yeah, L. We did a fiction. It was my first directorial debut, and Makai showed us love. He was in that. Omar Miller was in it. Brian Hooks. It was a great little piece. And then I just continued to push towards trying to continue this independent film route.
Do you enjoy it?
Yes, yes and no. I mean, it's hard as hell, man. I mean, because when you're outside of the system, it's raising money, man. It's very hard to raise money because this industry, 96% of the films made don't even get distributed.
Yeah.
Much less make money, right? So you're up against a very tough sort of environment in terms of funding.
Yeah.
But things are going well. I shot Unfinished, that you were assistant director on that.
That was fun. That was
That
fun.
did well. Then we went on, we did this movie with Lawrence, which you were in that. That's in post-production. It looks like that's coming really, really along really well. I know we're gonna get a very good deal. I have another movie that I just wrote called Conception that after the strike, is funded. I'm gonna move forward with that. But it was just really learning, this funding game is it's a tough business. But the thing for me is I'm undefeated. Every I've ever made not only got distributed, it made money. And
Talk
so,
that talk. I'm undefeated.
yeah, man,
Yes.
undefeated. That's right. That's right.
I
I don't
love
lose.
it.
I do not
I
lose. I
love
won't
it.
lose. So, and because it's the years that I put in, I know what I'm doing.
That's
So
right.
when you know what you're doing inside this business, you won't lose because because the thing, and I'll be done. The thing about it is what we gotta understand is part of who we are as humans and what separates us from other species is the way we think.
Absolutely.
We think in stories.
Yeah.
That's how we think. That's how everything is a story. Your whole life is a story. You make up these ideas in your head.
Yeah.
And I want to be this when I grow up. Or I want to do this, or the love affair, whatever it is you got going on. You make up stuff that's not even happening, and then you actually react to it. You know, the studies show that you can if someone says you're sick, you'll tell yourself you're sick and then become sick. You can actually, so that's the core foundation of who we are as human beings. We're narrative seekers. When you're in the business of selling narrative, and if you know what you're doing, you're not going to lose.
Not gonna lose. I like that.
And if you're righteous in what you're doing, you're not trying to sell people crap and lead people down the wrong path, then you'll really be successful holistically.
Yeah, the universe works in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I look
1000.
at it, man. So so now it's just a matter of continuing to go to course, aligning yourself with the right people.
That's right.
And it looks like that's what's starting to happen more and more.
I love that.
For me now. So I'm starting. The future looks bright.
I love that. You got to come back. Part 2. You gotta come back.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so
anytime.
much to unpack. Like we're just literally on like surface right now, but I just want to. Oh God, I love talking to you. We have like a minute. Oh my gosh, I have a minute. But where can people find you on social media to follow you and all that good stuff?
Ronnie Warner 3RD is Instagram, and that's And you just Google me, Ronnie Warner. I think all that little stuff.
Google him. This guy is like the man.
Oh,
Like,
I don't
don't
mean it
play.
that way.
Don't
I
play
didn't
with
mean it
Ronnie.
that way.
Don't play with
I'm just
my.
saying that stuff comes up. So just tell you, yeah, Google me.
Thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
on. I love you. I
Thank you,
appreciate your
Meosha. I love you too.
time.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time.
Yes.